Hare Krishna.
So we got today's Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 26. The chapter is entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 26. Sri Uddhav said, "You may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world." Purport. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offence of mayada vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to a scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of mayada vyatikrama, because by so doing, one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhav, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhav as his spiritual master, but Uddhav did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhav's father, and therefore Uddhav could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. So Uddhav decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person, but he was well versed also, because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhav and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else, but Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim, becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhav. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of the mayada vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honour due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization.
Very powerful statement.
Yeah, maintaining respect and honour, and not being puffed up in false ego, and even if you think or you know better, it doesn't mean you transgress. What's greater than that is etiquette, greater than your knowledge, you know?
Yes. Excuse me, it says to be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. So, being well versed means you also need to know how you're supposed to act, the techniques.
Right.
And Uddhav, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya.
Because if the greater spiritual knowledge you have, it should actually, one would have thought, bring you greater humility and praying or love. You know, unless it's based on book knowledge without realization, then you will be on that level of name and fame or false ego. Otherwise, if it's really penetrating the heart, it should become soft, and we should be thinking we're lower than the straw in the street, and you don't want to go first and talk, if that makes sense, you know? Oh, hello.
Yeah, that's a good point. Natural humility should develop, but unfortunately, that's one of the pitfalls of the cultivation of knowledge, pride. Mode of goodness is also pitfalls, pride. Text 27. Excuse me. Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc., on the bank of the Jamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with great affliction. He passed the night as if it were a moment, and thereafter he went away. Purport. The word used here for Krishna is Vishwamurti. Both Uddhava and Vidura were in great affliction because of Lord Krishna's departure, and the more they discussed the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, the more the picture of the Lord became visible to them everywhere. Such visualization of the transcendental form of the Lord is neither false nor imaginary, but is factual, absolute truth. When the Lord is perceived as Vishwamurti, it is not that he loses his personal and transcendental eternal form, but he becomes visible in the same form everywhere. Vishwamurti. So like Vishvarup or Vishvambar. Vishva means like universal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the universal Murti. So it means he's basically everywhere. You can see him everywhere. Interesting.
Text 28. The king inquired, at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders? Why did Uddhava remain alone? Purport. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, Nidanam means the transcendental abode of the Lord. Ni means the highest and Danam means opulence. And because the abode of the Lord is the highest manifestation of transcendental opulence, his abode can therefore be called Nidanam. Apart from the grammatical elucidation, the real purpose of the word Nidanam is to indicate that all the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties were direct associates of the Lord. And after the end of his pastimes, all the associates were dispatched to their respective positions in the transcendental abode.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elucidates the meaning of akritim as pastimes. A means complete, and kritim means transcendental pastimes. Since the Lord is identical with his transcendental body, there is no question of his changing or quitting his body to act in accordance with the rules and customs of the material world. The Lord seems to take his birth or leave his body. But the pure devotees of the Lord know well the actual fact. It is necessary, therefore, for the serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam to follow the notes and comments of the great acharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. To others who are not devotees of the Lord, the comments and explanations of such acharyas may appear to he. Should I say he or be?
To be.
May appear to be grammatical jugglery, but to the students who are in the line of disciplic succession, the explanations of the great acharyas are quite fit.
The word upagatesu is also significant. All the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja directly reach the abode of the Lord. The other devotees do not reach the abode of the Lord directly, but the pure associates of the Lord have no attraction for the opulence of any planets of the material world. Sometimes, due to inquisitiveness, devotees who are to be promoted to the abode of the Lord have some attraction for the opulence of the higher material planets above the earth. And thus they desire to see them while giving up to the perfection. But the Vrishnis and Bhojas were directly dispatched because they had no attraction for material planets. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also suggests that according to the Amara Kosha dictionary, akriti means signal. Lord Krishna ordered Uddhava by signal to go to Badari Ashram after his departure. And Uddhava, as a pure devotee of the Lord, carried out the order more faithfully in going back to Godhead or the abode of the Lord. That was the cause of his remaining alone, even after the departure of the Lord from the face of the earth.
So Lord Krishna ordered Uddhava by signal to go to Badrikashram after his departure, and Uddhava, as a pure devotee of the Lord, carried out the order. So it means he couldn't leave, although he wanted to depart. For him, there was no point in being alive or continuing to be here or be on the planet if Krishna had left, and he knew Krishna was leaving, but the Lord gave him an order, so he sacrificed his own desire to leave in order to stay and fulfill the order of the spiritual master. Is that what you've understood?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Chandra.
Haribol.
Yeah, that's what I understood, that over and above one's desire, like, I want to get out of this material world. It's okay, where do you want me to go?
You stay in the material world and follow the order of the spiritual master.
Yeah, we are. It's late for us, yeah.
Text 29. Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows." Purport. In this verse, the word chakshan is very significant in relation to Lord Krishna's leaving his body. Since he is the eternal form of existence, knowledge, and bliss, his body and his self are identical. Therefore, how is it possible that he would leave his body and then disappear from the vision of the world? There is a great controversy amongst the non-devotees or Mayavadis about the mysterious disappearance of the Lord. The doubts of those men with a poor fund of knowledge have been very elaborately cleared by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Krishna Sandarbha.
According to Brahma Samhita, the Lord has many forms. It is stated therein that the Lord has innumerable forms, and when he appears within the vision of the living entities, as Lord Krishna actually appeared, all such forms amalgamate with him. Besides all these infallible forms, he has his universal form, as manifested before Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here in this verse, the word spihitam is also used, which indicates that he left his gigantic universal form called the Virat Rupa, not his primeval eternal form, because there is hardly any possibility of his changing his form of Satchidananda. This simple understanding is at once realized by the devotees of the Lord. But those who are non-devotees, who perform hardly any devotional service to the Lord, either do not understand this simple fact or purposely raise a controversy to defeat the eternity of the transcendental body of the Lord. This is due to the defect called the cheating propensity of the imperfect living entities.
By practical experience also it is seen, up to the present day, that the Lord's transcendental form is worshipped by devotees in different temples. All of the devotees of the Lord factually realize that the form of the deity in the temple is non-different from the form of the Lord. This inconceivable performance of the internal potency of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita 7:25. Naham prakashe sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. In the Padma Purana it is said, Atashi Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriyai. The name and form of the Lord cannot be perceived by the material senses, but when he appears within the vision of the mundane people, he assumes the form of the Virat Rupa. This is an additional material exhibition of form and is supported by the logic of a subject and its adjectives. Okay, interesting. In grammar, when an adjective is taken away from the subject it modifies does not change. So, subject meaning the noun, adjective meaning the descriptive word used to describe it. So, like right now, if we say, an example of a noun. So this camera, this small camera that we're filming with, the small camera on a broken stand. So you can take away small and broken, but the camera and the stand still remain. They haven't changed, although they're moving. When an adjective is taken away from the subject it modifies does not change. Similarly, when the Lord quits his Virat Rupa, his eternal form does not change. Although there is no material difference between himself and any one of his innumerable forms. In the 5th canto, it will be seen how the Lord is worshipped in different planets in his different forms, even now, and how he is worshipped in different temples of this earth also.
Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have very elaborately explained this incident of the Lord's disappearance in their commentaries, quoting various authentic versions of Vedic literatures. We purposefully do not include them all here to avoid an increase in the volume of this book. The entire matter is explained in Bhagavad Gita as quoted above. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. He always keeps himself out of the vision of the non-devotees, who are devoid of love and devotion. And thus he puts them still further away from the Lord. The Lord appeared on the invitation of Brahma, who appeared before the Kshirodaksha Vishnu. And therefore, when the Lord appeared, all the forms of Vishnu amalgamated in him. And when the mission was fulfilled, all of them disintegrated from him in the usual course. That's it.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
It's late anyway. So text 30. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Purport. Jnanam mad ashrayam is significant in this verse. Transcendental knowledge has 3 departmental divisions, namely knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, knowledge of the all-pervading Supersoul, and knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Out of the 3, transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead has special significance and is known as Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. This specific knowledge is realized by pure devotional service and no other means. Bhagavad Gita 18:55 confirms this. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. Only persons engaged in devotional service can factually know the transcendental position of the Lord. Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace, so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of the Lord from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Badrik Ashram, where the Lord is personally represented by the Narayan deity. One who is transcendently advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity. One who is transcendently advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity. And thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord. Interesting. In order to make tangible advancement in the transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. That's a nice place to end. That was good.
Nice statement. Jai. Shri Shri Radha Landaneshwari Ki.
Jai.
Thank you, everyone. Well, one meaning. Gopi Chandra.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.
Thank you
Jai.
for staying loyal to the end.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai Ho.